If Sir Keir Starmer is made Prime Minister in the next 36 hours, he will be briefed straight away on the country's security situation. One man who's lived with those threats on a daily, if not hourly basis is the former head of MI6, Sir Alex Younger. Our global security editor, Rohit, sat down with Sir Alex, who started their conversation by outlining the shock any new Prime Minister faces of suddenly being in charge of the country's security.
I know that's been the case for his predecessors, where suddenly the gravity of what he has volunteered for hits when you think about the enormity. The first duty of a government is to defend the country, so as is sort of famous, he'll be confronted with the need to think about the instructions that he gives to our Royal Navy submarines carrying the deterrent, and I suspect he's been very busy, he's been thinking about stuff. If it is Keir Starmer, that will be a moment, and he'll be given advice on what to put in that letter, but it is his responsibility and his alone. This stuff just comes at you. You have no influence over what it contains. You've just got to deal with it. And it's punishing. Less than a week after his appointment, if it is him, he will go to Washington for the 75th anniversary of the founding of NATO.
Our peoples do not want war and do not glorify war.
An incredibly important summit at this inflection point in Ukraine, where he will meet his future colleagues and be expected to show real knowledge of what's happening and where we want to see this conflict go. I would hope that Vladimir Putin and indeed Xi Jinping will be unhappy with his performance at that. Meanwhile, you've got terrorist threats surfacing, we've got the Olympics happening, and there'll just be stuff.
At just gone 4:30 in the morning, we are calling it for Leave to Win.
Particularly since I've left office and I've travelled around Europe, I'm profoundly depressed. Nobody mentions the UK. We've just made ourselves irrelevant, and this is extraordinary. The beginning part of this century, we were the dominant force. France has effectively eclipsed that, and you just don't hear a discussion of us. And I think Brexit has marginalised us. It was kind of intended to do exactly that. And as I've already said, I think the problem with that, and we've got NATO, and NATO is great, but conflict is about so much more than war now. It's in the economic and tech space and the digital and data, and that's all civilian, and we've just marginalised ourselves. So Putin will have been absolutely delighted by our decision, as will have Xi Jinping. When Xi looks now at Europe, he's intent on peeling it away from the United States. This is an absolutely key strategic objective for a whole set of reasons we could discuss.
What did you make of Nigel Farage's comments in relation to provocation of Putin and Ukraine?
Well, it's most surprising, but I half agree with him. We absolutely did provoke Russia. But the catch is that we provoked Russia not through our strength, but through our weakness. It was our serial weakness that led us to where we are today. At every stage, Putin, from a position of some weakness, tried his luck, pushed the boundary, literally just stepped over the mark and waited to see what would happen. And guess what? We were fine with it. So in contrast to Mr. Farage, I do not draw the conclusion that the best thing to do in this situation is to show weakness. I just think it goes on and on and on. We are economically 10 times the size of Russia as Europe. We can deal with this. No one has to give up their Netflix subscription, right? But we've got to build up these capabilities. I think we've got 10 years. If we don't do it in 10 years, I think we're going to put essentially our kids in a position of extraordinary vulnerability for which they will not thank us.
10 years being the period also that Starmer has set for his decade of national renewal.
Good, so it's on him then.
Are you concerned about the potential impact of returning President Trump?
Yes. I think that what is it that keeps us safe as democracies? What's the thing that we do that autocratic regimes don't do? We make alliances, and we have a separation of powers within our countries that make our governments accountable. I think on both those issues, Donald Trump takes a different approach. Let's be clear, Donald Trump did us a huge favour. We were taking the mickey with defence spending in Europe. We were free riding on the US security guarantee. He did a good thing in bullying us into increasing spending, and that is well overdue and necessary. Europe needs to grow up in the security space. It's going to own the Ukraine problem at some stage. But my message to Donald Trump, I think if I was the next Prime Minister, would be that America is not being done over. It's a prime beneficiary of the international system that it's set up. And its willingness to police globalization, whilst I can see that is onerous and expensive, it's profoundly beneficial. It's why the dollar is the world's reserve currency, for instance. If it is Keir Starmer will be internally, he's going to have a large majority, it seems, and this is a very emotive issue, and where there is not unanimity.
Would it have been wise for both of the main parties perhaps to have gone further on that matter, specifically of the recognition of a Palestinian state?
Look, I don't know. I'm not a politician. What I would say, I'm an intelligence officer. What I'm interested in is we should do anything that makes that more likely. So to put the question back to you, do you think that makes it more likely? If the answer is yes, then yes. But if you took the view possibly that it will simply entrench previously entrenched positions still further, you could take a view that what we need is statesman-like activity and diplomacy designed to buy us time and space and frankly give license to the more moderate ends of this on both sides.